Ever since N7 Day of 2023, one of the many questions that have been asked since the famous Mass Effect holiday is whether or not the Angara will be returning in the next Mass Effect game. In this video, I'm going to explain exactly why we know the Angara are going to be making a return in the next Mass Effect game and why. But more specifically, which familiar face from the Angara are we guaranteed to see again in Mass Effect 5? If you love Mass Effect and other sci-fi games, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below what you want to see in the next Mass Effect game. Now, let's get right into all things Angara. On November 7th, 2023, also known as N7 Day, the annual Mass Effect holiday, BioWare teased us with two main pieces of media. The first being an actual in-engine teaser trailer revealing a potentially new N7 character, and the second being a high-resolution poster showing off this N7 character. Now, what has so many people excited is that the high-resolution picture of the new N7 character comes with a lot of really intriguing hidden details. One of the main hidden details in this image, and one of the more exciting in my opinion, and definitely surprising, is the presence of an Angaran character. The image is just high-res enough to where we can zoom in all the way on this character and easily tell that it's Angaran. The shape of the silhouette, legs, head, and the clothing we're able to make out pretty much make this undoubtedly a male Angara. This male Angaran character seems to be a part of the center of attention in this main scene in the bar that's seen in the teaser image, with a conversation going on with an Asari sitting at the table, likely Liara from a lot of speculation, a Geth standing next to the table, and another mysterious figure standing behind the Angara that a lot of people are speculating to be one of the Ryder twins based off of the shape of the helmet the character is wearing, as it does resemble the helmet of Scott and Sarah Ryder from Mass Effect Andromeda. But that's a discussion for another day. We're not here to talk about this character. We're here to talk about this mysterious Angaran character and how they ended up in some sort of bar with Geth, Hanar, and Volus all at the same time, considering none of those species were in Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, we do know the Quarian arc that was heading towards Andromeda but got delayed was housing other Milky Way species such as Hanar, Drell, Volus, etc. But how does this explain that an Angara is suddenly in a conversation with a character that might potentially be Liara, and especially a Geth that has no presence in Mass Effect Andromeda whatsoever? Whether this image of this bar is taken from the Milky Way galaxy or the Mass Effect Andromeda galaxy, one thing is undeniable: the Angara have a presence in some way, shape, or form, or at least one of the male characters. This scene in the art with the Angara, Asari, and Geth all talking to each other at the table appears to quite literally be the center of attention in the art, as it's in the middle of the image itself and seems to have the most going on as far as some sort of storytelling is supposed to go. Which leads me to believe that whatever's happening in this image with the Angara, Asari, and Geth is gonna be pretty important in the next Mass Effect game, or at least important to what they're trying to tease in this image. With the presence of an Angara male here in this image, along with many other teases and hints towards Mass Effect Andromeda in previous teases about the next Mass Effect game, I think it's pretty safe to say some storylines for Mass Effect Andromeda will be somehow making their way into the next Mass Effect game, whether or not it takes place in Andromeda. And I think one of those elements from Mass Effect Andromeda that's going to be carried over into the next Mass Effect game is the Angara themselves. If BioWare did not plan on having the Angara make some sort of appearance or play some sort of role in the next Mass Effect game, why would they put an Angara male at the front and center of their main promotional poster right now for the next game? So I think for the sake of this argument, let's assume that the Angara are going to be in the next Mass Effect game and that they're going to play some sort of heavy role. That leads to the next question, and one of the main points of this video is, who the heck is this guy? As I mentioned before, this scene depicting the conversation between the Angara, Asari, and Geth seems to be a really important, if not the most important piece of imagery in this Mass Effect in 7-day art. So if this is the most important thing that BioWare wants us to see out of this art, then who is this character? It's got to be someone important, right? To me, it comes down to two major characters that it potentially could be as far as the Angara that we already know. The first option of who I potentially think this could be is Ephra. For those who don't know or maybe forgot, you haven't played Mass Effect Andromeda in a while, Ephra is the leader of the Angaran resistance against the Ket on Aya. He's one of the main leadership figures for the Angara at the time of Mass Effect Andromeda, and definitely makes a lot of the bigger decisions when it comes to Angaran security and military matters. Also, the way that the Angara is posed in this image gives it definitely a more aggressive and assertive feel, and anyone who remembers Mass Effect Andromeda, Ephra was definitely an intense, grumpy, aggressive, and assertive individual. So the body language in general kind of gives me a feeling that this could be Ephra, along with him being, besides the next character I'm going to name, the most prevalent and present male Andromeda character in Mass Effect Andromeda. Also, if we look to the source material itself, if you play Mass Effect Andromeda, you can see that in Ephra's character design, he shares some similar features to this character. On Ephra's legs, you can see two stripes going down his thigh that you can also see in the Angara character's image in the N7 teaser poster. Ephra also has two pouches on his hip right above the stripes where it's kind of hard to tell, but potentially there could be the looks of a similar shape to what these pouches are on his hip in the picture. It starts to be a little bit less quality when you zoom in that close, but you could make the argument that there's some similar shape and features of the pouches that are on Ephra's hip in Mass Effect Andromeda. So I'd say the lower body of this character heavily resembles Ephra, with the two stripes on his leg and potentially the two pouches on the hip. There's an argument to be made that this character is wearing the same lower body pieces at least that Ephra is wearing in Mass Effect Andromeda. Ephra also wears a little scarf overlay on his character, kind of like the one in this teaser image, but not quite as big. The scarf poncho thing that the character in the teaser image is wearing resembles much more closely to one of our squad mates in Mass Effect Andromeda. And obviously, of course, the second character, and character I think is most likely that this is Jaal from Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, there's a few big things that I think make this a pretty dead giveaway. The first is obviously the poncho scarf thing. I know they have a name for it in game, I just forgot. But Jaal is the only character we see in Mass Effect Andromeda that wears one of these things that goes fully over his shoulders and also halfway down the arm. Jaal's is the only one that's long enough to cover this much of his body, and it also has some of the same flow and texture that Jaal's overlay might have had in Mass Effect Andromeda. So right off the bat, I think those two things are eerily similar, and we don't really see clothing like that on any other Angara in the way that it's on this character in the teaser image and Jaal in Mass Effect Andromeda. The second thing is, on the Angara's head in the Mass Effect in 7-day teaser image, you can kind of see a darker outline of some sort of black strap almost looking like going across his head and down his face. I think this could be eerily similar to Jaal's headpiece that he wears for his little eye magnifier that he wears in Mass Effect Andromeda. It seems to be darker than the rest of his face, just like in Mass Effect Andromeda, and has a very similar shape and length to it as his eyepiece does in Mass Effect Andromeda. And if you zoom in far enough on this picture, it gets really blurry and hard to tell, but you can see that there might be something a little light blue in front of this Angara's eye. And as we know, Jaal's eyepiece in Mass Effect Andromeda was light blue and directly attached to that dark, long headgear piece keeping it on his head. So I think although the lower body of this character roughly resembles Ephra, I think the upper body is pretty spot on to what Jaal could be. Now, obviously, it's hard to tell if it really could be Jaal and his clothing just because the colors are so washed out in this image, And it could be argued that this can't be Jaal because the colors don't match, even if it is the same type of clothing. But with the lighting that's given to us in this image, it's hard to tell what color really anyone's wearing in this photo. You can go around to almost every character, and if they're not wearing something super bright or super dark, it's really hard to tell what color their clothing is. So just based off the clothing alone, I'm really willing to believe that this is Jaal from Mass Effect Andromeda. And if BioWare really wants to bring back some elements from Mass Effect Andromeda, they would want to bring back the parts that people really enjoyed about the game. Across the Mass Effect fanbase, Jaal is most people's favorite companion for Mass Effect Andromeda. And it makes perfect sense. In my opinion, Jaal had the most effort put into him when it came to visuals, writing, and all the design overall. His romance was great, his banter was great, and he was a great vessel of learning about this brand new species being introduced to Mass Effect, which were Angara. I think when most Mass Effect fans think back to Mass Effect Andromeda and the things that they liked about it, I think Jaal is at the top of most people's list, being the character that most people found the most enjoyable, having a great romance, and a great ambassador to this new species that we're learning about for the very first time. So, I think if BioWare were to bring back an Angara, especially a male Angara character, to be a main part of the story and play a major role, I think it'd be the one that most people are familiar with when it comes to the Angara, and one of the best things about Mass Effect Andromeda in general, which was Jaal as a character. But I want to know what you guys think. Please leave a comment down below on who you think this character is and how much of a role you think the Angara are going to play in the next Mass Effect game. As I said before, if you enjoy Mass Effect and other sci-fi games, please leave a like and subscribe for all things Mass Effect. Thank you guys.